Computer. Happy Friday, everybody. It's Friday the 13th, and it is smack dab in the middle of April. And I'm so glad you're here. More than anything, I'm glad to be a part of this community with each and every one of you because I realize, that the wellness journey, especially at the beginning, can be really, really lonely. And it's important for us to come together in order to remember that we're not alone on so many different levels, whether it be within, within our at the yoga studio in our yoga community, whether it be within our virtual community, whether it be within business, whatever. It's important for us to come together. So today, I decided to share a little bit more of my own personal journey. So today I'm going to be sharing with you guys the top 5 lessons that I have learned over my wellness journey. So I'm going to be telling stories because that's how I roll. So I'm going to start from the beginning, really, of where it all started for me, and it started at my rock bottom, where that starts for a lot of people. And it was at the beginning, or it was right at the end no, it was at the end of my junior year in college. I had been in a relationship with the same guy for about 2 or 3 years, and it was very, very unhealthy. Um, I didn't know that it was abusive at the time because he never hit me until it got physical one night. And one night we were at his place, and in the middle of a fight, he slammed me up against the wall and he punched the wall next to my head. And in that moment, I slumped down to the wall and was just in a ball of tears. And I knew in that moment, somehow I knew in that moment, that the next time it would be my face. And so I didn't go back. I remember standing up and telling him goodbye and walking out of his apartment, um, and walking out of it for the last time. However, I walked out of his apartment extremely broken. And, I had never had a healthy body image or a healthy self-esteem in regards to relationships and so on, leading up until that point. At that point in my life, I was 50 pounds heavier than I am today. And had just never had a really great body image. I didn't exercise on a regular basis. Even though I was a cheerleader and dancer in high school, I didn't have a consistent practice. And the next day, after that day with him where he slammed me up against the wall and I left, the next day I was at college. I was in class, and a girl named Cece, who I believe to this day she was an angel sent to my life, she pulled me off to the side. And Cece was a mutual friend of mine, and my boyfriend's name was Will. And I actually had met Cece through him. And she pulled me aside and she said, I just wanted to let you know that I heard what happened between you and Will. And obviously, guys, no one actually knew what happened because I hadn't told my side of the story of what had happened. So somehow she had heard through the grapevine that Will and Aubrey broke up and there was some sort of depression, but no one really knew the depths of the darkness that I was in at the end of that relationship. And she pulled me off to the side and she said, Aubrey, she said, I heard what happened between you and Will, and I need to tell you something. I go to a shrink, and my shrink told me that it is physically impossible to be depressed while you're exercising. Maybe you should start. And that's where it all began for me. I was leaving an abusive relationship. I was in the darkest place I had ever been. Had been on the phone with my parents the night before telling them that I didn't love myself anymore and that I was completely lost and I didn't know where to go from here. And so where did I start? I started in the pool. I started swimming because I had been a lifeguard for for years, but had never been consistent in the pool. And so I started swimming. And so that was literally my first lesson. My lesson number 1 is you can't be depressed while you're working out. And I stress that now because there are so many people in this world right here, right now, in pain of some sort. And a lot of that has to do with some sort of emotional root. And so movement and moving my body, although swimming the laps that I did wasn't as intense or as extreme as P90X or some of the things that we do in this community, it was something. And it was a constant motion. And it was me combining breath with movement, stroke after stroke after stroke. And what happens, guys, when you are exercising, you're releasing endorphins. Endorphins are that happy chemical that make you feel good. And when you're working out and you're combining breath with movement, just like in yoga or any other sort of exercise, guess what you're not doing? You're not thinking. And you're not perpetuating the story that has kept you in pain and has kept you depressed in the first place. And coming from a background of poor body image, high anxiety, and very prone to depression, that's where I started. And that's why I continue, is because I never want to be that person again in the dark hole, not knowing how to pull myself out. So it is lesson number one is you can't be depressed while you're working out. Lesson number two, nutrition matters. Don't become the beady-eyed rat. What's that mean? Okay, so now I have another story to tell you if you haven't heard this one before. So, I'd started my wellness journey. I was swimming on a regular basis, but then I started to realize, I hadn't changed a lot of how I was treating myself with food. And what happens whenever we had been in a depressed state, maybe coming out of a bad relationship, I was numbing a lot with food as well when I wasn't exercising. And I decided, though, that I wanted to feel really good for my senior trip on a cruise. And so what did I start doing? I started taking diet pills. And I started taking Metabolife. And I don't know if you guys remember Metabolife, but Metabolife was ephedra-based and it's outlawed now. It was legal speed, okay? And I'll never forget when I came off of ephedra and I came off of Metabolife. It was after spring break, and one day being in the mess hall at TCU, and I had drank 3 or 4 Red Bulls like in a row, and I still felt tired. So that just shows the level of speed that I was on. Okay, so let's pause there, right? So I was doing it the wrong way. And then I met my husband, and my husband had started his wellness journey as well because he was heavier before he met me. Hey, honey. Sorry, I'm greeting my 10-year-old as he comes home. So my husband had been on his wellness journey as well, but he wasn't doing it quite the right way either. Not out of not because he was trying to hurt himself, but it was just out of lack of education. He was doing Slim Fast, right? We all know the Slim Fast plan, right? A shake for breakfast, a shake for lunch, and a reasonable dinner. Well, that was before I knew very much about nutrition. And what I know now, since we all drink Shakeology and we've all know a little bit more about nutrition, I did not know the hazards of sugar and how sugar was a poison in the body. And if you look at the side label of Slim Fast, you're going to notice a ton of sugar in there. And what I didn't realize was that my body was actually becoming more sick from the sugar than it was from actually treating my body well. So where's the beady-eyed rat come in? Well, okay, so back when I was in the 5th grade, I was in Miss Russell's class. And Miss Russell, we did an experiment with 2 cages next to each other, and each one of them had a rat inside. And one of them, we were learning about nutrition with this experiment. With one, all we gave to them was leftovers from the school cafeteria, which that's interesting in itself. And the other one we gave like fresh vegetables to. Fresh fruits and vegetables was all it got in its cage. And over about a month's time of the rat who was getting the leftovers from the school cafeteria, which was lacking nutrition, which we all know now, by the end of that month, the rat that had been getting the food from the school cafeteria, literally its skin had grown back to where its eyes were literally like popping out of its head. Its fur had become like bristly and coarse where it looked rough, okay? And the rat who'd been eating the nutritious fruits and vegetables, its fur was, I mean, hard for me to describe a rat as beautiful, but it was beautiful. Its fur was lustrous and it was smooth. And for compared to the beady-eyed rat, it was gorgeous. Okay, so pause there. So it's like it was about 2 months before my wedding, and my mom was down visiting, and this was about 2 years after I had started my Metabolife and Slim Fast, and the goal was to just get skinny. I was trying to get skinny for my wedding, but I was doing it all the wrong way. And I'll never forget, my mom was in town for my bridal shower, and she was like rubbing my head because it's one of my favorite things that my mom does, and she was soothing me. And when she went to rub my head, she a clump of hair fell out of her into her hand, and she showed me and she said, Aubrey, she's like, I'm really worried about you. Would you do me a favor, please? Please don't lose any more weight. Please don't lose any more weight. And in that moment in time, I realized I had become the beady-eyed rat. I had become the beady-eyed rat from I was trying to get skinny, and so I was starving myself, putting the wrong things into my body. And thus, my awakening with the importance of nutrition and proper food and getting your proper vitamins and minerals started to awaken. So, lesson number 1 was you can't be depressed while you're working out. Number 2 is nutrition matters. Don't be the beady-eyed rat. Don't starve yourself just to be skinny. You need to nourish and take care of yourself. So, lesson number 3 is what you focus on grows. Here comes the story. So, what focus on grows. So, back to the story, right? I'd gotten married. I was working in the gym world, and I was a gym manager. And I was starting to wake up to nutrition, even though I still wasn't quite getting it. I was starting to just be a little bit more conscious. I was using different products at that time that didn't have as much sugar, and was being mindful of that. And I was skinny because I got skinny for my wedding. It wasn't healthy skinny, but I got skinny for my wedding. But I still had what I would call like fat girl syndrome in my head. Like, although I was skinny, in my mind, I hadn't changed. In my mind, I was still that same girl who was 50 pounds heavier. And then one day I was with one of my teachers, and she pointed out to me, and she asked me a very important question. She said, Aubrey, she's like, you are surrounded by mirrors every day, all the time. You walk into a gym, there's like mirrors everywhere, right? She's like, you're surrounded by mirrors all day long, every day. I'm curious to know, when you look in the mirror, what do you see? Where do you look? And I realized in that moment, every time I looked in the mirror, I looked at what I would call my quote unquote problem areas, the areas of my body that I didn't like. I would look at my hips, I would look at my thighs, I would look at the areas of my body that I considered a problem. And so, what my teacher told me in that moment, she said, Aubrey, she's like, I want you to make a new practice. Every time you look in the mirror, I want you to focus on looking for the sparkle in your eye, for looking for that twinkle in your eye. Because I truly believe that when you can see the beauty of your own soul, your physical body will start to reflect it. So what did I do? I literally took a lipstick and I wrote it on my mirror in the bathroom. Look into your eyes, Aubrey. Look into your eyes and look for the sparkle. And so that became my practice. Every time I looked in the mirror, I consciously looked for the sparkle in my own eyes, but not just the sparkle in my own eyes. I started making it a practice when I would see other people and greet other people who were walking into the gym, consciously looking for the sparkle in their eyes too. Because what happens is we realize that a lot of times not only are we looking at the aspects of our own bodies that we feel like we would like to improve upon, but a lot of times we also notice that in other people. And what do? Whether it to be to ourselves or to others, we end up judging and we self-criticize. And the things that we pay the most attention to grow and expand. And what I learned through that practice was, as I stopped focusing and looking for and at my quote unquote problem areas, they went away. They just slowly went away. So those aspects of my body that I wanted to change, I don't know if they physically changed or just my perception of them changed. But does it really matter? Does it really matter? I don't know. But so number 3 is what you focus on grows. So make sure you're focusing on the part of yourselves that you want around, which is the beauty of your soul, the wisdom of your highest good, and the dearness of your heart. So, and also your internal strength. And as you focus on those things are going to expand in your life. Number 4, know your why, then do you. This has been a big lesson over the course of my journey. So at the beginning, right when I became a fitness professional, the whole reason why I started getting in shape and losing weight in the first place was, so I grew up as a dancer. I was in the gym trying to lose weight for the wedding, and I found myself in a hip hop aerobics class, and I found myself thinking in my mind, I can do this, like, because I loved to dance. So that was my philosophy at the beginning of my fitness journey, was find something that you enjoy doing and then do it. And then do it, right? That was my philosophy at the beginning. However, then I became a Beachbody coach, right? And then all of a sudden, because I started thinking that I had to do X, Y, and Z to be a good coach, right? Because we put out these really intense and really challenging programs and so on. And so I felt like I needed to do X, Y, and Z, like Insanity that I did last year. Holy hell, that was mental torture on myself. And what I learned through that whole experience, isn't it wonderful that there are so many different ways to exercise? Because as I'm looking right here, right now, and I see Jill in the background, one of my favorite people on this team, she loves Insanity. And guess what? It's awesome that she has that. But what I realized is that, so many of us assume that you have to do it X, Y, and Z. But there is no one size fits all to health and fitness and nutrition and wellness. It's about learning what works best for your own mind, body, and spirit. Because guess what? If it's torture, you're not going to do it. It's not going to be your lifestyle. You're going to end up letting it go because it ends up being something that you're forcing yourself to do because you think you should, not because you feel amazing while you do it, and you want to because you want to feel amazing. So those are two huge different perspectives of looking at it. And the important thing is to go in and try and experiment and fail and try again and get back on. Figure out what sets your soul on fire, what works best for your body, and then do you. Like, for example, we have people on this call who say, for example, I love Fixate Nutrition. It does great for me. Simple portion control container system, right? But you talk to my coach, Amanda, and she starves on that little fats. She really likes the high fat, low carbs. That's where she feels good and feels energized and feels nourished. So it's about letting go of what we think is right and wrong and actually doing some experimentation to figure out what in the world makes you feel good. And once you figure out what makes you feel good, then do it. Then do it. then do it. Okay, so that's number 4. Number 5, and this is my last one. We may be done faster than normal today. Number 5 is don't explain your philosophy, embody it. And this is maybe one of the hardest ones for me to learn at first. Right when I became a Beachbody coach, and even right before, even right when I started really getting passionate about nutrition. Like, I wanted to scream it from the rooftops, and I wanted everybody to be on the journey with me. But what happens is when we try to set standards for people and expectations for people that they didn't ask for, they end up going in the other direction. And sometimes we have to be the change in our family and in our environment before people start to shift, because people don't hear you until they're ready to listen. So what a lot of people, and what usually ends up happening is we start to get on, we get on our journey, we want everybody to come with us, we get really passionate, and I tried to push some people that I really cared for to come along with me, and it ended up pushing them in the other direction. So the best thing I realized that I could do was just do me. Like, prioritize my own wellness, do my yoga, do my meditation, eat clean, feed my mind well. And what happens is people start to notice that you start to show up differently. They don't want to hear a lecture. No one wants to hear a lecture. No one wants to be told a better way to do things. But when you're someone that they love and you start to show up different, and they start to notice your energy is different, your attitude is different, your physique is different, you start to show up different, then all of a sudden you're embodying your philosophy and you become a walking sermon, so to speak, for whatever it is that's making you feel amazing. And when they're ready, the shifts will start to happen. But your words and your reaching out and your isn't always going to be the turning point. And honestly, what ends up happening is we can take it personally. When there's people out there that we really, really want to help, we can take it personally. And it's nothing about you. It's nothing about you. And it's all about them and their own journey. You're allowed to have your own journey, and they're allowed to have theirs too. So don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. Show up as your best self. And when people want to know and are curious about what you're doing that makes you feel so amazing, they'll ask. And when they're ready, then they'll be ready to listen. So, again, my top 5 things that I've learned on my wellness journey is you can't be depressed while you're working out. Nutrition matters. Don't be the beady-eyed rat. Don't starve yourself to skinny. Nourish your body because you love yourself. What you focus upon grows. So focus on the beauty of your own soul. Look at the sparkle in your eyes. Feel your internal strength from within and focus on that. And as you focus on that, you'll get stronger, you'll get more healthy, and it will expand. Know your why. And then do you. And maybe I didn't expand enough. Like, my why is not to have the smallest waistline or the lowest body fat. If it was, maybe I'd be doing different workouts. My why is because I want to feel really, really healthy, and I want to feel really good, and I want to have fun in this life. That's my why. So I'm going to work out and I'm going to move my body to help satisfy that. And what other people do to help them do them, awesome. And lastly, embody your philosophy. Don't explain your philosophy. Embody your philosophy. Show up as the best version of yourself. And as you show up as the best version of yourself, you're going to inspire others to do the same. So I love you guys so much. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being with me on this journey, because I value you more than you know. For those of you who are live, mwah. For those of you who are recorded, mwah. And we will not have a call next week. I will be up in Mulberry Mountain teaching yoga at a music festival, but we'll maybe be changing our call times to a different day and time. We shall see. But you guys have a fantastic weekend. Take care of yourself. Bye, guys.